The dog stared at the wall for 6 hours before anyone understood what was on the other side of it. His name was Rowan, a 5-year-old Great Pyrenees, with enough fur to fill a pillowcase and enough weight to anchor a small boat. He was not a dramatic animal. He did not bark at passing cars. He did not respond to the neighbors' wind chimes. He accepted thunder with the philosophical equanimity of something too large to be genuinely concerned about weather. What Rowan did, in moments that mattered to him, was become completely still and direct his full attention at the source of whatever he had decided required his attention. He had been doing this since 7 a.m, facing the wall shared with the bedroom where 14-month-old Kai was sleeping. Nadia was a physical therapist. She had an early appointment and had gotten Kai down the night before, knowing he would sleep past her departure, and she had left the monitor with her husband, Devon, who worked from home and whose schedule had the flexibility to absorb a toddler's morning without disrupting his output significantly. She had kissed Devon before she left, looked at Rowan lying in the hallway with his eyes on the bedroom wall, and thought, he wants to sleep on the bed with the baby. She had thought this before, when Rowan positioned himself outside Kai's room. She had always attributed it to the dog's territorial comfort instinct. She did not think about it again until Devon called her at 9:53. He said, "Kai is not right." She asked him what not right meant. He said, "He woke up about an hour ago. He doesn't want to eat. He's running a temperature." He said, "He's been crying, but it's a weird cry." He paused. He said, "Rowan won't leave the room, and he keeps pressing his nose against Kai's neck." Nadia had worked in pediatric physical therapy for 11 years. She had sat with enough parents in enough examining rooms to know the specific vocabulary of parental concern that distinguished "I am worried" from "something is wrong." Devon's voice was in the second category. She said, "Take his temperature again." She said, "Is there a rash anywhere?" She said, "I'm leaving now." She was in her car before Devon said anything else. He texted her the temperature reading from the parking lot. 103.4. Then, 3 minutes later, "There's something on his leg." "She needs to see this." He sent a photo. A small cluster of reddish dots on the inside of Kai's left thigh. Irregular, not raised, not blanching when he pressed a glass against them. She called 911 from the car. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you are in the right place. Subscribe so you do not miss the next one. The pediatric emergency team used the word meningococcal in the ambulance. They used it carefully, the way clinicians use words that are both accurate and terrifying, and they were moving very quickly while they used it. The rash had 3 additional spots by the time the paramedics arrived. Still small, still easily attributed to something minor by someone who was not looking specifically for petechiae. Kai was admitted to the PICU. He received IV antibiotics within 31 minutes of arrival. The pediatric infectious disease specialist who took over his care used a phrase that Nadia wrote down and kept. The window of effective intervention in bacterial meningitis is measured in hours, not days. Every hour of treatment delay corresponds to a measurable decrease in outcome probability. She asked, "How long did we have?" He said, "Based on the presentation you described, you had perhaps 3 more hours before the bacterial load would have crossed thresholds. where the outcomes become significantly less certain. Nadia asked about the neck pressing, what the dog had been doing with his nose against Kai's neck for the hour before Davin called her. The specialist paused. He said, "Dogs have been documented detecting meningococcal bacterial infection through scent before symptom presentation. The bacterial metabolite profile is distinct." He said, "The fact that your dog was focusing on the neck is also notable. Meningococcal infection causes neck stiffness as it progresses, a well-known clinical sign. Whether the dog was responding to scent or to an early physical manifestation he could detect through the skin. I cannot tell you which. Has your dog ever done something that made no sense until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. Kai was in the hospital for 8 days. He came home with no lasting neurological deficit, which the specialist told them was the outcome they worked toward and achieved significantly more often when treatment began early. Rowan was at the front window when they brought Kai home. He did not bark or jump. He moved to the door and waited for it to open, and when it did, he walked slowly to the carrier where Kai sat, strapped in, and pressed his nose gently against the top of the boy's head. He held it there for a long moment. Then he stepped back and went to his spot by the window and lay down. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. Nadia spent time afterward reading the available literature on canine detection of bacterial infections. It was less comprehensive than she would have expected from a field with this much potential clinical significance. Several studies confirmed the ability. None of them explained. In terms she found fully satisfying. Exactly how a dog pressing his nose against a toddler's neck at 7 in the morning could be translated into a phone call that put an ambulance outside her house before the rash had fully presented. She had been a physical therapist for 11 years. She had learned to read bodies. She had assumed she was better at this than most. She sat with Kai one afternoon when he was recovered and back to himself, moving through the house with the particular velocity of a toddler given an inch of freedom, and watched Rowan follow him at a distance of 3 feet, with his eyes steady and attentive. The way he had always followed him. She had thought it was devotion. She had not been wrong. She had also not understood yet that devotion, in this particular animal, came with a diagnostic capability she had not credited. She understood it now. She did not fully understand how. She did not think full understanding was the point. Rowan settled beside Kai's playmat. The boy sat down abruptly, as toddlers do, and the dog adjusted so their sides were touching. Kai grabbed a handful of fur. Rowan did not move. The afternoon light came through the window and made the room quiet and warm.